In this video, we're going to go through a review of the order of operations. That is, if there are several steps to be performed in order to simplify an expression, we are going to look at the specific order in which those operations should always be done. A very common way to remember the order of operations is with this little sort of silly sentence that is, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." And what that's supposed to remind us of is that the P in please tells us that parentheses are done first. That is, if you have any operations that are inside parentheses, we're going to do those first. The E in excuse tells us that we're going to simplify any exponents that we have next. The M in my tells us that multiplication is next in our hierarchy. The D in dear tells us that division is next in our hierarchy. The A in aunt represents addition. And as you probably have guessed by now, the S in Sally represents subtraction. So, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally tells us that we're going to do these things in the order of parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. The reason that I say those two that way is multiplication and division are actually equals in this hierarchy. So we don't always do multiplication before division. Instead, those two being equals on the hierarchy, we're going to perform those from left to right. We will look at that in a couple examples. The exact same thing is true of addition and subtraction. They are equals in this hierarchy. So we don't always do division before subtraction. Those two are equals in the hierarchy, so we're also going to perform those from left to right. Let's look at some examples. The first example we're going to look at is 4 plus 2 times 7. Now remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. In this problem, I've got addition and I've got multiplication. I don't want to just charge ahead and do this left to right. What I need to do is make sure I'm doing these things in the right order. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Multiplication is done before addition. So my first step in simplifying this is to do the multiplication part, which is the 2 times 7. And so what I'm going to end up with here is 4 plus whatever 2 times 7 is. That's 14. And then 4 plus 14 is 18. And now I've simplified this thing correctly. Next we'll look at 22 minus 5 plus 8. Here I've got subtraction and I've got addition. And you might think, okay, well please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So M-D-A-S. A comes before S, so I should add before I subtract. Hold on. Remember, addition and subtraction are equals in this hierarchy. So when I see only addition and subtraction, I'm going to do those from left to right. So in this problem, the first thing I'm going to do is this subtraction step. So I'm going to do 22 minus 5 is 17. And I'm going to do the plus 8 afterwards. 17 plus 8 is 25. And now I've got this one simplified. We have addition and subtraction in this problem. Those two are equals in the hierarchy, so those are done from left to right. Let's look at another very similar problem to the last one. Now I have 22 minus 5 plus 8 are in parentheses. Remember, parentheses are the highest in my hierarchy. So parentheses are always done first. If I have something that needs to be done that's inside parentheses, that goes first. And here I do. In this particular problem, I have this 5 plus 8 that's inside parentheses. So I do that first before I do anything else. So here I start out by, go ahead and 5 plus 8 inside those parentheses is 13. And now I only have one step left, and that's my subtraction. 22 minus 13 is 9. Here we've got one with a whole bunch of symbols. I have 30 divided by 5 times 2. Your first thought might be, okay, well, parentheses come first, and I see there are parentheses here right there I have parentheses. But wait a minute, there's nothing for me to do inside those parentheses. So there's nothing to do, so really they're just there to help me keep things organized. I don't need to perform any operations inside the parentheses. I don't have any exponents, so that's next. Multiplication and division, those are equals in the hierarchy, so I do those from left to right. So here I'm going to do the division first, and then I'm going to do the multiplication afterwards. So my first step here, going left to right, is to do this division. 30 divided by 5 is 6. And then after that, I still have this multiplied by 2 to do. And so I have 6 times 2, which is 12. We'll look at another one that seems to have a lot of parentheses, but there again, when I look inside the parentheses, there aren't any operations to do inside the parentheses. So I don't have to do that next. I do have these instances where there's no symbol between the numbers. If I see no symbol between the numbers, that indicates multiplication. So I have multiplication, and I have addition, and I have subtraction, all that need to be done. Well, I can remember multiplication is going to go first, so I'm going to do the multiplications first here. 3 times 4 is 12, 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 2 is 10. So I've got 12 plus 6 minus 10. Addition and subtraction are equals on the hierarchy, so I'm going to do those from left to right. So I'm going to do the 12 plus 6, and then finally I'm going to do the 18 minus 10 to wind up with my answer. Let's look at one more. In this one, I've got 5 minus 1 inside parentheses squared minus 3 times 4. So let's see, I have in this problem, I have parentheses that I have something to do inside, so that's going to be first. I also have an exponent up here. I have subtraction, and I have multiplication. So I've got to think about the order in which I want to do those in order to simplify this properly. The first thing I need to do is work inside the parentheses. So that 5 minus 1 will give me a 4. I still have squared minus 3 times 4. Okay, parentheses are done. Now I look to see if I have any exponents, and I do. I have 4 raised to the second power. That means 4 times 4, so I've got 16 minus 3 times 4. Now I've got subtraction and multiplication. Multiplication goes first, so I need to do 16 minus, the 3 times 4 is 12, and then finally the subtraction step. 16 minus 12 is 4, and I've simplified that expression. Remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is a great way to remember that we do parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division are equals on the hierarchy, so those go left to right. Addition and subtraction are equals on the hierarchy, so those also go from left to right.